Hello everyone, it's been a long time since I actually made a Neverwinter video because I haven't been playing a lot of Neverwinter. I've been mostly playing Black Desert, if anyone's interested. Otherwise I've been looking forward to Cryptic's new Magic Legends, which had a release trailer, so I might try that, but I've always kind of done a set review, especially because I'm an Xbox player, so I know a lot of people on Xbox and PlayStation have a hard time seeing the new gear and are always interested in checking it out, and this is it. So I'm going to give you all my thoughts on the new equipment, go over the set bonuses, the stats, and stuff like that. So we do have a new artifact set, and here it is, the Book of Vile Darkness. People will probably like this artifact because its main stat is power. It's got plus 3,000 power, combined with another 1,500 armor pen, which is an offensive stat to go with the power, and then 1,500 deflection, defensive stat obviously. The use isn't that great because it's RNG. You gain a random effect. There's 3. The best one is Savagery. Decreases the damage resistance of your targets by 2.5% for 6 seconds, stacking 6 times. So not bad, but again, it's RNG. But also, a way to kind of avoid the RNG is that this does have the active use to reduce your cooldowns by 2 seconds and slowing enemies. But so the actual cooldown reduction might be useful for some people in some builds, and then you got a random effect. 2 of them are defensive effects. One of them is that Savagery that I just read to you. That's an offensive effect that would be very useful. So if you can make use of those cooldown reductions, this might be an artifact for you. The other thing is the set bonus. You do 5% more damage to demons, devils, and fiends. So this set will obviously be useful in Avernus because it's a demon-themed mod. But outside of that, you know, for the long run, it might not hold its own weight because, you know, we're not going to constantly be fighting demons. So it might be a semi-useful set. The other thing is the Orcas set did get nerfed if you haven't seen it. It's so old it takes a long time to scroll to it. But here it is, deal up to 10% additional damage based on the difference in hit point percentage between the player and target. They used to be up to 20%. Obviously you're not always going to have 10% because it's a differential. But that did get nerfed, so if you are an Orcas user, just be aware of that. You might be looking to use a new set or a newer set, and this might be an option for you. So I'm actually going to hop over to the campaign real quick because while we're talking about demon damage, another thing I want to show you are that boons are back. So here you can see you can get boons as part of the campaign details, and there is a boon. Now I already looked at the boon page, and they're not giving you more of the top end boons and allowing you to pick more of those, but there is a boon towards the bottom that is extra demon damage and extra demon resistance against damage taken from demons. So this kind of fits nice, so you can earn more boons, spend it on the demon damage for this mod, and, you know, probably not have to fully re-roll your current boon page. We're going to open up the Avernus store because there's a couple of things in here. These are just transmutes, item level 1 stuff. However, there is this Diluted Holy Water. It appears you can rank it up. It says rank 1, ready to upgrade, and it splashes water in front of you, dealing 2,000 damage to all enemies. Now we've seen with mod 16 that if the damage is high enough, these kind of utility belt potion slot items can be really popular. A lot of people used the doohickey before it got nerfed. So how high you can upgrade this and how much damage it will deal at the highest upgrade, I'm not aware. It says recharge time of 2 minutes, but so it's been popular in the past, these dealing damage items in your potion slots. Whether or not this is good enough, it probably learned their lesson from the doohickey because they did nerf that, and, you know, people weren't happy about it. So I wouldn't assume this gets too high, but it's something to keep an eye on. We also have the Lion's Guard gear. I'm actually going to open up in a different page, but as you can see, there's a bunch of different campaign currency tokens associated with it. So now let's get back to the collections page. I didn't see any mounts listed. Either I'm just completely blind or they're not in there, but I did check pretty hard for them. There were several companions. So we have the Hellhound here. I'll pop it up in case people want to actually see it. It's basically a wolf with red eyes. The enhancement bonus, chance on hit to increase you and your companion's crit severity by up to 5%, so it's going to be 5% at purple, I think, or legendary, for 15 seconds when your companion is near. The value of the buff depends on the quality of your summoned companion. And then the utility power increases the drop rate of family crests and chaotic writings in the new area by 10%. So they've done a lot of these mounts before where they give bonus campaign currency. Usually they're part of a promotional Zen pack, and so this is here. Then the new stuff is over here in Mystical. So there's two companions, although they're basically identical. So we have the Incubus, which is a male, and then the enhancement potency, chance on hit to increase your power by 200 and your companion's crit avoidance by up to 4% for 15 seconds when your companion's near. And then offensive power, which is kind of the new one, 10% chance on encounter use to daze your foe for 1 second. This effect may occur once every 10 seconds. So here we have the male version. There's also a female version. And here's the female version if anybody's interested in looks. But the powers and everything are still the same. So it's basically just looks. And this is lockbox. This is in your lockbox here. Alright, so let's go back to the equipment. We're going to finish off the set bonus for you. Here is the necklace to go with the artifact. It's got armor pen and critical strike as its two kind of stats that are unique to it, and it also gives constitution, which is pretty normal on necklaces. If you remember in the past, necklaces used to give AP gain. Well, constitution points give you AP gain and health, so that's kind of what they converted it into to kind of keep with the old system a bit. You also have, that's the book, so here's the whip. And this gives you defense and accuracy, 2 intelligence, and I believe when you upgrade it gives you 2 charisma. So it's a little bit leaning more towards spellcaster mages because intelligence is magic damage bonus, but those bonuses are so small in the grand scheme of thing that it's not too big a deal personally. And so all this stuff can be found in the Infernal Citadel. Let's go over to the stuff you can wear. As you saw before, I popped this stuff open because it's in the campaign reward store. So this is the highest item level stuff in there. And here it says you can earn all those different currencies I showed you earlier. The 4 are listed here, and it says you can earn them all in the Infernal Citadel Epic Dungeon. And then the Chaotic Writings, which are the more common ones, you can earn from campaign quests and heroic encounters. So for the helmet, we have an equip bonus of when your stamina is over 75%, your power is increased by 5,000. And I'm going to bring up that power increased by 5,000 because that's a pretty common theme through a lot of this gear. They seem to think that the balancing point for an equip bonus is roughly around 5,000 points worth of stats, or a situational 5,000 points worth of stats, because that's really common across a lot of this gear. And so we've seen stuff like this before. This is on a helmet. We've had boots before that increase your DPS by 3%, I believe it was, in Chult when you have full stamina, when basically you're standing still and not burning it up. So this is kind of a play on that. And then you have 2 different types, just giving 2 different stat types. This one happens to give crit strike and combat advantage. Here we have boots, and now we have gained 300 power for each enemy you're engaged with, max of 15 targets. So if you take that 300, times it by 10, that's 3,000. Then half of that for that extra 5, that's 4,500 max power. But how likely is you're fighting 15 max targets? Probably not likely, or at least not likely for long, because you'd eventually kill them. Here we have a mystical coat. Whenever you critically strike with your powers, you have a 10% chance to restore 5% of your maximum hit points. So basically it's got a little bit of a lifesteal effect, although it's a fixed rate. And this effect may only occur once every 5 seconds. So it helps you heal a little bit, maybe if your healer's a little bit on the weaker side. They seem to be putting healing on chest pieces, and I'm going to cover that as we keep going through this gear for you. But again, you have a different stat distribution. This one's 2,500 armor pen. This one's 2,500 deflection. So now we have some wrist guards, and this one's escalating might. Gain 250 power when you strike an enemy. Lose a stack when you are struck. Stacks 20 times. That's a lot of times. So, you know, that's up to 5,000 power again. That seems to be a roughly common breaking point on a lot of this gear. If you hit full stacks, it doesn't talk about decaying outside of combat, so that's something that would need to be tested, because, you know, just reading it, it looks like you could give 5,000 power and keep it until the next time you get hit. Whether or not that's actually true, you know, you're gonna have to test out. This gear is Seal gear from the Infernal Citadel Epic Dungeons, and so again, it's just different equip bonuses. It's worse stats, so the equip bonuses basically have to make up for that in some way. Here we have, whenever you deal combat advantage damage with your powers, you have a 10% chance to gain 5,000 power for 10 seconds. Again, it's that 5,000 power range, but this is a lot of hoops to jump through, because you have to deal combat damage, then you have to hit the 10% proc, and then it goes on cooldown for 10 seconds, so it's not the greatest, at least in my opinion. And then you just have another variant of it. Then you have boots. For every 5 seconds you are in combat, gain 200 power. Again, they didn't actually write what the decay rate is on this, or they didn't even give you a max, which is very strange, because usually they tell you a max. So this is the point at where I say this is preview. This is roughly 10-12 hours, I think, with it being released on preview. I don't know, it's the next day, so, you know, a lot of this stuff can be tweaked and changed at any point, or updated. Here we have an equip bonus on a chest piece of gain 1,000 defense for every player in your team. So usually that's going to be a 5-man team, so again, that 5,000 stat range. This time it's defense on a chest piece. Here we are back to arms. Whenever you deflect an attack, gain 1,000 power for 10 seconds, max 5 stacks. So your max stacks, again, 5,000 power. Now we have trousers, which are always kind of a unique upgrade a lot of times. This one I believe wasn't very good. So Wardens Haste, whenever you're damaged for more than 15% of your maximum hit points in a single blow, your movement speed is increased by 5% for 10 seconds. So I guess the theory is, like, you know, if you take a big hit and you need to dodge more red, or you need to get to your healer, this will help you a bit, although it doesn't actually help you kill things quicker. So it probably won't be as popular for that reason. But they do come in a variety of stats, so these ones are defensive ones. I've always tried to play offensive, so here's... actually, all these are a bit defensive. This one does have crit avoided defense, deflect, awareness, so all of them appear to be defensive stats, although the offensive stats are on the shirts, and the shirt does have a better equip bonus for actually dealing damage. So here we have Butcher's Zeal. When you damage or heal your target for more than 15% of your maximum hit points, you gain AP. So AP gain, this effect can only occur once every 5 seconds. And then you have your offensive stats on your shirts. They're item level 1,200 if you're trying to compare them to, you know, shirts and pants that you're currently wearing. We've already covered the artifacts. Here we have Antiquities of Avernus. And this is like the kind of anything goes kind of sets. We've seen, you know, the poster trophy hunting stuff. We've seen the, what do you call it, the expedition stuff. This kind of fits in those themes of random objects and with random set bonuses. So these are 1,225 gear. So again, just to refresh your memory, it's slightly worse than the best stuff, 25 item level points, but better than the other stuff I just read to you by 25 item level points from just stat wise. But again, usually it's the equip bonus that makes or break whether you're going to wear it. So here we have an equip bonus of gain 300 power for each enemy you're engaged with. Again, that's been on other items before. And you can find this one in Rare Monster Oddments. What that is, I'm not personally sure. But here we have, at the start of combat, you call forth dozens of the Nine Hells, summoning them to help you and increasing your power by 5,000 for 15 seconds, 1 minute cooldown. So this is actually a good step. They've had a lot of like summon a companion to help you fight gear before, but it never actually did anything really. Never made an impact. Here they're doing the same thing, but now they're finally giving you know, a stat boost to go with it. Again, that 5,000 power range. Another set of arms here, we have Defender Guard. Gain 1% damage when struck, stacks 5 times. When you strike an enemy, the stacks are consumed, and you gain 1% damage resistance per stack consumed for 10 seconds. So it looks interesting because you can stack up to 5% damage, but you lose it as soon as you use it, so it doesn't really look that useful, you know, on a DPS character. Maybe a tank will just want to stack the damage resistance a bit and then, you know, cash in the 5% damage to regain aggro or something to help them that way. But, you know, because like in a normal fight, you'd be dealing damage, take damage, sure, you gain 1%, but then you deal damage again, you keep going through your rotation, so you never actually build this. And then we have the same actual set bonus here again. So a chest piece, before I talked a little bit about the chest pieces having a little bit of a healing theme. Actually, this isn't the healing one. This is the bad one. So when you damage your target for more than 15% of your maximum hit points in a single blow, your target is pulled towards you for 5 seconds, applies a single target, doesn't say because it's a tooltip error. Applies to a single target and does not stack. So, and if they're control immune, you get a bleed. So basically it pulls stuff towards you, you know, pushbacks, knockbacks, pulls, whatever. People tend to hate that in dungeons because you move the mob and then they get mad at you, so I can't see this getting a lot of use. Dark Ritual Robe. Your powers have a 10% chance to siphon life essence from a target, creating a nearby healing orb, which can be picked up to restore 5 per second of your maximum hit points over 5 seconds. 20-second cooldown. So this is why I said before that they seem to try to be putting a little bit of healing onto chest pieces for whatever reason. I will say, going back to this arm piece, which had a duplicate set bonus, the other place you can find this kind of gear is in Juma's Surprise Bag. So there's 2 locations, again, Rare Monster Oddments and Juna's Surprise Bag for all this gear that I'm going over right now. But to get back to the chest pieces, we have Veiled Barricade. Receive damage from an enemy receiving damage from an enemy increases your defense by 1,000 but reduces your accuracy by 1,000, max 5 stacks. So we've seen the old switcheroo on gear before. I've never been a fan of it really because you don't actually gain stats. It's just kind of a rebalancing act because you're losing as much as you actually would gain. But it's there. And then another chest piece. Whenever you deal damage to an enemy, gain a stack of Reckless Brutality, increasing your power by 1,000 but increasing your damage taken by 2% for 5 seconds, max 5 stacks. So there's also another sub-theme of kind of risk-reward. You make your character either weaker, closer to death, but you do more damage. And so this is kind of the first piece that goes along with that theme. Here you can get up to 5,000 power, but you can get up, but it would also put you at 10% extra damage taken. So here we have Boots. Whenever you critically strike with your powers, you have a 10% chance to reduce your maximum hit points by 20%. Again, making you more likely to die, but in exchange you gain 3% damage for 10 seconds. And this, again, this was on a pair of boots. The other kind of piece like that was on a chest piece. Here we have when your action points are full, your power is increased by 5,000. Usually you want to cast your daily when you have it, so you can get it again and keep going through your rotation. Here we have whenever you deflect an attack, you have a 30% chance to reflect 5% of the damage back to your attacker. This effect may only occur once every 10 seconds. We've seen stuff like this be, you know, really good in PvP, and we've seen stuff like this be really good in certain situational dungeons for like tanks reflecting damage. So whether or not the numbers line up on this, you know, it does have a high proc rate. I'll say that. You have a 30% chance, relatively low cooldown, and once every 10 seconds. So whether or not this makes a splash in PvP, how it's coded, it doesn't say any restrictions on PvP. Again, this is the first test build. You know, more details might be added, removed, changed later on. Here we have another one of those risk-reward themes. Here we have plus 5% damage, which is pretty big, but minus 50% incoming healing. So if you have a really good cleric, this might, you know, who is already overhealing you, you might not miss the incoming healing. You know, if you've got the right utility enchantments to increase your incoming healing, this might be an option. Here it's 5% damage, whereas this other risk-reward piece was only 3% damage for 10 seconds. So this is interesting. It's going to cause a lot of, you know, the whole moving to the healer tank DPS trifecta thing has caused a lot of healers to complain about people not having enough incoming healing as the reason why they're dying, and DPS blaming healers is the reason why they're dying. And here, you know, you have a hard choice to take less incoming healing and put more pressure on your healer. So I'm sure this is going to cause a little bit of an uproar between all parties involved, but we'll see how it plays out. Let's get over to the helmet so we can wrap this up. Here we have an equip bonus of when you kill an enemy, 20% chance you will teleport to a nearby enemy. So not really great. You know, even on a tank, it's just movement. It doesn't actually help you kill stuff or survive. Bone armor. When you kill an enemy, gain 2% of your maximum hit points as a shield for 10 seconds, max 5 stacks, so you can get up to a maximum of 10% hit points as a shield. Although, you know, best probably used on a tank, but tanks don't really get a lot of kills, so it's probably not that useful. Here we have Challenger's Might. When in combat with only one enemy, your power is increased by 5,000, so maybe on single target bosses. Again, there's plenty of other optional 5,000 power increases going around, so it's not all that unique in effect. And Berserker's Might for the final one. For the first minute you are in combat, you will gain 400 power every 5 seconds. If you stay in combat for longer than a minute, you'll lose 450 power every 5 seconds for a total loss of 4,200 power. So we've seen the stacking helmet and then the degrades over time before. This is just the newest version of it. This one is a little bit more steeper. The increases are bigger and the decreases are kind of bigger, but if you liked that item before, it's still here. And then you have a bit of fashion gear. So that was the stuff I had to share with you. I think that covers everything that was visible. Again, I didn't see any mounts listed, although we did have the lockbox companions. So I hope this helps you guys. You know, different people, like I said, have a hard time actually accessing this information, so it's something I like to do, even though I'm currently not playing the game myself that much anymore. But again, thank you for watching if you've made it this far, and you know, have fun with it. I hope this mod turns out to be good for everyone still playing and going at it. So thank you again. Take care, everyone.